There are over 130 people on death row in the state of North Carolina. This is part 10 of the series. Terry Robinson, 24 years on death row. The jury found him guilty of first-degree murder. They also found him guilty of attempted robbery with a dangerous weapon. Following a capital sentencing proceeding, the jury recommended a sentence of death for the first-degree murder conviction. Mark Squires, 24 years on death row. Mark Lorenzo Squires was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder on July 27, 1998, in relation to the murders of Eric Keach and Randy House. Squires was found guilty on both charges of first-degree murder after a capital trial. The conviction for House's murder was based on felony murder with premeditation and deliberation, with the sale of cocaine serving as the underlying offense. The sale of cocaine and House's murder served as the underlying charges for Keach's murder conviction, which was based only on felony murder. The jury recommended that Squires be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release for House's murder and to death for Keach's murder during a capital sentencing hearing. Timothy White, 24 years on death row. On October 25, 1999, Timothy Lionel White was charged with Evie Lane Vaughn's first-degree murder. White's great-aunt, who was 72 years old, resided next door to him in a mobile home on Tobaccoville Road in Forsyth County, where he shared residence with his parents. White removed 4 firearms from his father's gun closet early on July 21, 1999. He took the firearms out of his bedroom and soon started to play with them. After that, White placed one of the weapons in his back pocket, moved to the next door, and pointed the pistol at the victim as she opened it. The victim shouted, raised her arms, and reached for the gun. She was shot in the chest by White. He tried to shoot the victim again after she hit the ground, but his pistol jammed. After that, White went over to the victim and stomped on the head until he believed she had passed away. After taking out $100 in cash and a set of car keys from the victim's pocketbook, White started the victim's Cadillac, which was kept in the garage, and went back to his house to load the remaining firearms in a duffel-style bag along with some clothes. In addition, he acknowledged his mistakes in a letter to his girlfriend. White went back to the victim's residence. He went out through the garage after locking the doors from the inside. He took the victim's Cadillac and headed to West Virginia. Michael Holmes, 24 years on death row. He was convicted of robbery with a deadly weapon, first-degree murder of Dean Ray Creech, and attempted first-degree murder of Ronnie Lynn Hardison, which landed him on death row. 2 gunshot wounds were found on Creech's body, but the pathologist conducting the autopsy was unable to ascertain the sequence in which they were sustained. A bullet that entered the right side of the chest, passed through the right lung, passed through the aorta, causing blood to pool around the heart, and left a large irregular exit wound on the upper left side of the chest. A bullet that entered the left lower back, passed through the left lung, and exited the left side of the chest, with pieces lodged in the left arm, was the origin of the second wound that the pathologist reported. The doctor also testified that a high-velocity weapon fired the first bullet from a distance greater than 2 feet. According to him, Creech passed away as a result of these wounds, and either wound would have been lethal on its own. Johnny Hyde, 26 years on death row. Hyde was drinking with Joel Coleman and James Blake at a shed near his house on August 1, 1996. Hyde overheard Blake and Coleman talking about where to get more drugs because the blue pills they were taking didn't make them feel very high. Leslie Egbert Howard was reported by Blake and Coleman to have drugs in his home at all times. The victim's mobile home break-in was organized by Blake and Coleman. The two requested Hyde's help getting into the victim's house to take weed at some point after midnight. Hyde agreed. Blake and Coleman wore gloves and coats that resembled camouflage. Blake had a pipe and an axe head, while Hyde brought a knife and a handsaw. Coleman, Blake, and Hyde then strolled up to the victim's mobile home. Blake pried open the front door with the help of the pipe and axe head. Upon leading the way down the hallway to the victim's bedroom, Hyde discovered the victim sitting upright in bed. Hyde then lunged at the victim, stabbing him multiple times with the knife. The victim went to his knees and was struck in the back of the head with the pipe by either Blake or Coleman. At that point, the victim collapsed on his back to the ground. Hyde used a drill bit from the shed to stab the victim twice in the side and back. The victim's throat was then repeatedly sliced by Hyde with the handsaw until the stench and sight of blood sickened him. For around 3 minutes, Coleman continued to sever the victim's throat while Blake remained vigilant in the living room. The 3 men then fled from the victim's home back to Hyde's shed after hearing a car approaching. Blake burned off the blood by setting fire to every weapon in a barrel before placing it on a garbage can to be collected the following day. Patrick Steen, 26 years on death row. He is on death row for a robbery murder. During the autopsy on March 1, 1996, it was discovered that the victim had broken teeth, bruising over her head, neck, left arm, shoulder, chest, and buttocks, and contusions over the bridge of her nose, above her left eye, and over the left side of her cheek. There was also a cut on the right side of her scalp. In addition, the autopsy discovered 16 distinct fractures to 10 different ribs, minor tears in the inner lining of the chest, and areas of bleeding around the brain, as well as swelling and bruises. The head injuries were classified as blunt trauma injuries in the autopsy report because they resulted from a blunt object striking the body. The report added that the victim would have lived for 3 or 4 hours and that none of the blows would have been instantly deadly. Danny Frogge, 26 years on death row. He killed his bedridden stepmother and father with stabbings. He resided at his father's and stepmother's Winston-Salem house at the time of the murders. His stepmother had been confined to her bed for more than 2 years, and his father was unemployed. Frogge did not pay rent. Instead, he helped out around the house and worked part-time. The Winston-Salem Police Department received a 911 call on November 5, 1994, between 4 and 4:30 in the morning, from someone identifying himself as Danny Frogge. He announced the passing of his parents. Robert and Audrey Frogge's bodies were discovered in their bedroom by Winston-Salem police officers upon their arrival at the site. Bloodstain covered Robert Frogge's arms and shirt when he was discovered laying on his left side on the ground. He had been stabbed 10 times. Beside his body was discovered a leather wallet that held his driver's license and other random documents, but no cash. There was a drop and a smear of blood within the open wallet. There was a white sock with blood on it beside the wallet. Under Robert Frogge's corpse was discovered an iron lawnmower bar. Audrey Frogge was discovered in her hospital-style bed, her arms and torso covered in bloodstains. She had been stabbed 11 times in the chest. She also sustained hand injuries from defensive knife wounds. Beside the bed was a mobile table reminiscent of a hospital. According to forensic pathologist Dr. Patrick Lantz, the angle of the stab wounds suggested Audrey Frogge was stabbed by someone who either climbed on the bed or stood at the edge next to the table. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.